So
Good.
we are live. I am so excited to have here today with us the most amazing and talented Bob Grant. He is a relationship expert. He has been doing this for a very, very long time. And he's just super generous and a great guy to hear his wisdom, his experience about all these things, dating, relationships, what makes a relationship work. And today we are going to talking about the secret of power of emotional intention, of feminine emotion, how our emotions actually can help us to attract a high value man, a great, great guy. And so, for all of you that haven't seen me first time, I am Natalia Hart and I am a dating and relationship coach. And today we are very, very excited about bringing this topic about emotional intelligence because many women struggle with expressing emotions because they fear coming across as needy or overly emotional. How can women communicate her feelings, Bob, in a way that draws a man closer rather than pushing him away?
Well, thanks, Natalia. That's a good way to describe it. Most of the time, I find with talking with women is I hear a lot of messages of I've been told don't complain, don't whine, don't be weak, don't be needy. And the process of that, those emotions kind of get bottled up. And that bottling up period can be weeks or months. And if you bottle stuff up for a long time, at some point you get upset or scared or something, and then it just all comes out. So the first thing is if we can get someone to pay attention early on, if I'm upset with someone or a man's doing something I don't like, ignoring that means it's usually just going to get worse later. So in an
Right.
attempt not to be really emotional, you probably won't be emotional until you're overly emotional, or some people will call it overreacting. And then the tendency is I'm overreacting, so I'm going to push it down even more. And then it comes back stronger the next time, and that's the process. So how do we do it initially? Initially is to sort of keep track of what's going on because it's not the specific emotion that scares men. It's when someone overdoes it, or especially a lot of women I
Mm.
talk with, they're successful, they're used to being able to be focused really well, and they don't show a lot of emotion. I mean, like real bubbly, outgoing. And then once they do, the guy's like, "What? Where's this coming from? What? Why are you now so needy? Or why are you?" And he doesn't see all the times that she's stuffed and sort of accommodated him.
Right, right. So what I hear is not the actual emotions, what can push a guy away or scare a man away. It's actually the way we communicated and how we, as women, we have the tendency to accumulate a lot. It's like we don't solve, some of us, unless we learn how to do it right. We don't solve on the go. We just accumulate. I can say I used to be like accumulate, 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 and then one day, oh my goodness, all hell breaks loose. And that's the part that comes out as if we are completely emotionally dysregulated.
Mhm.
Is that
Yeah, and
right?
they'll, and some men will be crass with it and say you're being crazy, or I mean, you're overdoing it, and that's not a good way to do it. But for him, he's used to, like you said, you're easygoing most of the time. You agree with stuff most of the time. You never complain most of the time, and then he gets blindsided by it because us men, we don't feel most of the time. I know you and I were talking, we were together on my podcast, and it was about how women tend to think about something all the time, and that is foreign to us men. Well, we still don't get that. And when I tell women that most of the time men aren't thinking, women just look at me like, "How do you do that?" I'm like, we just do it. And they're just fat. Teach me how to do that. I can't. I mean, it's just a biological thing. So we don't have access to all those emotions like you do, but we like them. And so we tend to feel, based on a woman's feeling. Most every man has a story of seeing a woman. She's really pretty. She's really attractive. You see her at a party or someplace, and then you go up and talk to her, and all that chemistry just goes right out the window because it's not just the way she looks. I mean, that's part of it. But if maybe she's rude or maybe she's, demeaning to everyone or something, and so that emotional thing doesn't match what they see. So without those emotions we see from her, it's almost impossible to connect with her, even though she's been told, some negative things probably in the past. So part of our goal is to really remind them about the power of being authentic and how much men crave that. They may not say it the way you and I are talking about, but deep down, all the men I know and have known for years, they would still agree with this.
Right. Being what I'm hearing is that yes, that a man, like a high value man, at the beginning he may be attracted by the looks because that's pretty much the first thing. But then after that, he's the second thing that is the most attractive for a high value man is emotional maturity or balance, congruency. And it doesn't matter how pretty we are, if we are not emotionally balanced, that man is not going to stick. Now, the dangerous part of that equation I have seen is that there are certain men that will stick, and those are the men that are also emotionally imbalanced. So I think it's something that is important to bring up because those women may attract men and they may keep dating guys that they end up breaking up or they break up with them and they're like, why, what's happening, I'm being authentic. Yes, you are being authentic, but it's the shadow side of the authenticity. So there is a way to be authentic in our empowered feminine, that I believe that's what attracts a high value man. But there is another way of being authentic on the shadow side of the feminine, which is the woman that criticizes, that is needy, that is demanding, that is constantly complaining. So I think it's
And
important to make that distinction. Makes sense what I'm saying?
yes, and let's go deeper with that. I like how you went there. And so if we say authentic, and let's
Right.
make a distinction between that and like being transparent or being impulsive. So if I'm transparent, I just kind of share whatever's on my mind, whether I should or I shouldn't. Small children do this a lot.
Right.
If I'm impulsive, the same thing. I just kind of react to something. A lot of times, the woman that dates that kind of man or the guy that's not a good fit for her, she gets warning signs. She notices certain things. She sees the way he treats the waiter or waitress, or he shows up late and doesn't apologize and acts like that's normal. Not huge things, but she brushes those off or she ignores those because it's not that bad. It's not bad enough to to stand up for herself. I don't want to be someone that's too picky, she might say, or I don't want to complain too much because she's not being true to who she is. It bothers her. Now
Right.
she has to decide, is it worth it? Most things are not worth it. If he's 2 minutes late, most aren't going to care about that. But I ask women, if it bothers you, even if it's something silly, pay attention to that. That's being true to yourself, and then see what you want to do with it. But if something bothers you and you ignore it, what she's doing is she's numbing out her feelings. Not in a horrible way, but just over time it builds. And that makes her susceptible to the guy that is selfish, to the guy that is condescending, to the guy that will take advantage of her. Because what I found is when we numb out kind of one emotion, you tend to numb them all out. We don't get to pick.
Mhm.
So in our campfire program, we talk about, there are no good or bad emotions. Some are more fun than others. But someone that, I'm not going to be scared, I'm not going to be weak. I'm like, you're going to pinch off all of them and you're going to kind of be numb after a while. And that makes you susceptible to guys that I call their vultures that seek out women to, can I just conquer her? Can I just get the date or get her in bed or get that with her? Then I'm bored or then I'm not interested. And I'm not blaming a woman for doing that. That's not her fault. But she loses her authenticity, that intuition, because she's numbed out in a way that I don't want to feel bad things, or I don't want to come across as weak or needy. Sorry about that. Am I on the same page with you?
Yes, 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 yes. Definitely. So let's talk now about what are the natural positive emotions that trigger a man to want to be closer to her. Do you have
This,
any ideas on
this
that?
might be, it sounds a little counterintuitive. So imagine if a woman is upset or scared. I want her to express that for this reason. I because what men fear is I've been with a woman that's upset, and either at some point there was one that yelled or one that blamed me, and they have this association that is she going to get out of control? I want him to see you when you're mad and when you're
Mm.
scared, and you can express that. And what I'm used to seeing with a woman that practices this, a guy experiences it, and he goes, "That's it." She says, "Yeah, I'm furious at you for where's the screaming? Where's the yelling?" She says, "No, I don't do that." That's what makes her safe. Is, oh, that's as bad as, I mean, within reason, that's as bad as it gets. Because now he's not afraid to make mistakes, to take risk, to try things with her. She's modeled for him. This is how we do as a couple, or this is how I do it. Because the irony is that actually makes him feel emotionally safe. Then he trusts the laughter, the playful, all the other ones as much. It's the ones that are more vulnerable that actually make it emotionally safe for him and how she handles that. Now, I don't mean about perfect, but I think everyone knows about not being out of control with it, because that's what he's secretly afraid of. Is that if I, and some women will tell me this too, I'm afraid if a guy gets mad, he's going to scream and holler and throw things. And so I want him to be mad at her in the same way. But when you're mad, still be safe. When you're mad, don't attack her. You can be angry and not have a temper. Those are two different things. So those are ironically the ones that will create more connection. They won't feel like it. What we're trying to do with men is create emotional safety, because that's his Achilles heel, just like physical safety is for women.
Wow. That thank you for sharing that. That is incredible. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So number one, it's kind of like a revelation that men need safe around us. I love that you brought that up, because sometimes I don't know if it's cultural or what. I am a Latina. We have our own set of beliefs, and so I grew up with my dad being the macho man. He was a Latin lover, and he was so cute and all that, but that he was always strong. And I would have never thought for a second that my dad could feel unsafe with my mom. And I can see how he probably did, because my mom was really, really crazy Latina woman, very emotional, very passionate. So that's important to know, that we do have to be mature and responsible in the way we communicate to a man, because if we are not that way, if we don't control our temper or our inner critic, it can destroy the relationship when it's not necessary. Just learning a few skills and a little bit of emotional control. And I would like you to talk a little bit about that, by the way. How can a woman that maybe is a little bit too passionate, to put it in a way, and she, when she gets upset, she goes into yelling, screaming, throwing dishes, and things. How can she start to, but she wants to do things differently, because if she's listening to this, she is trying to grow and learn, which is amazing. So I know I had to learn how to stop throwing dishes to people, because that's what I used to do. And I did learn in a very painful way. Nobody taught me that. I just saw myself one day doing it, and I was like, "Stop it! You're 30. You're not 5 anymore. This is not cute anymore. This is disgusting what you are doing." So I stopped. But for sometimes I was a very aware woman, self-aware woman. So how a woman can start working on this? Maybe a few steps that she can take to be able to regulate her nervous system when it's completely out of whack.
Yeah, I think regulate is a good word to use. because most of the time folks don't do things where it just goes from 0 to 10, or they're calm and then all of a sudden they're just terribly upset. And part of the regulating is just paying attention when something builds. When I used to work with men that were sent to the courts because of their temper, they would get mad and hit women. And they would come in and say, teach me how not to get angry. And I was like, oh my gosh, no way. I said, if I do that, you're going to kill somebody. I said, your problem isn't your anger. As I said, you let it build up. Oh, no, no,
Mm.
no. When I get angry, I said, yes, if you get angry and hit her, you're going to jail. Absolutely. But what I want you to do is to address it earlier when it first starts to bother you. No, and they don't want to do that. I'm like, you're about to go to jail. Well, we don't have that leverage with everyone. But if you and I are walking around with someone, when something bothers you, we'd say, okay, do we want to bring this up or not? No, it's not that big a deal. Remember, temper problems are accumulation problems. It's not that someone just has a temper, it's they let it stack, and then they get to here, and that's why just the least little bit they'll blow. So I think I can relate to that. When I was little, I would do that. And so someone's self-regulating, it's addressing stuff because there's a reason it bothers you. See, I don't like when someone says I'm too sensitive. I'm like, well, says who? Or this shouldn't bother me. Says who? It's like telling me I should like, chocolate or vanilla. I like what I like. And if something bothers me, there's probably a reason behind that. And can I start practicing on smaller things, addressing stuff when it bothers me? And maybe even with safe people, if I'm nervous or anxious or angry about something, just letting them know, this is how I'm feeling. Because remember, how we feel is not good or bad. That's like being hungry. Hungry is not good or bad. It's what we do with it. And a woman's emotions, and a man's, but a woman's emotions really are, to her like nerves are to our body. It lets us know when something's wrong. It lets us know what stuff we like. And that flow that women do, men like it. In fact, men like it just when women feel in general, not just when you're positive and upbeat. It's weird, but we really do like seeing the passion you're talking about. I can see why your dad married your mom. I can see, yes, there's times it may be a headache or something, but she makes me feel. She makes me feel alive. And I don't really do that, especially a man's man. I don't have access to that a lot. And I can only get it through her. So I
Right.
haven't met your dad, but at least I'm guessing.
Right. That was awesome. I just I just like how you keep repeating. We don't have access to that. We don't have access to that, and it's incredible how important it is for a woman to take her time and learn a little bit about the dynamics between men and women and how men are different than us. I probably you hear this all the time too. I hear it with my clients at the beginning. He keeps giving me advice and it makes me so upset, and they truly suffer through that. And so it's like the way men are. I mean, men like fixing up things, they go into fixing things. So if we take our time to get to know men, and vice versa, it goes for both ways. I always say goes both ways. um, that's when things start to get easier in a relationship. We cannot love what we don't know, and expecting to start a relationship or to be in a relationship with a man and not getting to know their psychology, how they see the world, what they like, how they experience things, how their sensuality works, and all that. It's it's just not very mature. It's like, as women, when we get pregnant, we get a pile of books learning, how to take care of the baby and baby psychology and baby everything. And, we paint the room and we buy the clothing and the perfumes, and we go above and beyond, take classes. We drag the guy with us to the classes. We drag the guy with us to the mall to buy the. And so it's really amazing how learning about men and how to do relationships it doesn't seem to be a mainstream thing. It's incredible. It's incredible. So we have Linda Rufo. She said some. I didn't read what she said because I can't multitask to save my life. She said, "Thank you, Linda, for the text. When I am mother upset, I tell my man I need some time to process and we'll come back to talk. It just takes me an hour or two to calm my emotions so we can talk. You have something to say to
No,
that?
that's perfect. That's because the nice thing with that is being able to separate. If I'm upset, I don't necessarily know what I need. I mean, if I'm angry and you ask me what I need, I don't. I remember sitting with couples at times, and I learned this the hard way with asking them, "What do you need?" And it was, I don't know. She'd cry, and she would, and I had to learn to start asking it differently. She didn't know more than anything else. It would be like a gesture. Can you hold your hands or something he can do as a gesture versus. And I like what she's doing. Just that pause actually lets a man know that okay, even if she's upset, I'm not going to get punished for her being upset. Like it's a great way to make a man feel safe is that it is because I don't know what to fix if you're upset. I know I did something wrong, apparently, at least that's the fear, or I'm going to get blamed for something, again, the fear. And that pause is okay. I mean, this is a compliment. It feels like I'm not dealing with a child. So when my kids were little and they're upset, there's no reasoning with them. It's just they're upset, the world's over. You just have to, calm down. I'm listening, and we don't want to do that with a partner. And men sometimes associate that with being real emotional, and not seeing that. And so I can just imagine him. I don't know if he'd say it this way, but how lucky he feels that, oh, I don't have to worry about walking on eggshells around her. Is that even if it's upset, we'll come back and talk about it later when it's not so intense. So nice job.
Yes, yes. Thank you for saying that. I really, I'm old. I know I don't look my age, but I'm pretty old, and I don't know if it's age or what, but I think getting upset and all that. I mean, unless of course there are certain situations that it's worth it, but most of the time it's not even worth to get upset over things. I am somebody maybe because I get upset about everything. I am such a person that that everything bothers me. I have so many pet peeves, and oh my god, it's like I'm not easy to. A lot of things bother me. So maybe because of that, I got to this point where I'm like, it's nothing. You're just feeling upset. Feel the feeling. It is worth to pick a fight or to bring it up to disturb this. I'm talking about my husband, who is a great guy. Okay, let's say that. So, you know, it's really worth to bring it up to him. Not really. Just deal with it on your own. I don't know. I learned a long time on my early 20s about a business partner taught me to said, Natalia, you need to learn how to lose some battles to win the war. And to me, that got imprinted in my heart. It was such a powerful thing because of me, because I was very passionate and righteous, and I have big ideals, and don't beat the puppy, and don't like all the things. But being so extreme like that um, got me to this other side of my life where I'm like, unless it's really, really important, something that, and it also comes with getting to know ourselves. Don't you think, Bob, that we know what our non-negotiables are, what our standards are, our values are, and I go like, is this really something that is against the core of my being? No, he's just chewing with the mouth open. Let the guy be. Uh, what do you think about that? Do you think I became too much of a flower power over time, or?
You flower power? No. I mean, the nice thing is you never will. But see, I like the idea of knowing yourself. And let's just pick you. Someone like you always can be passionate. Absolutely. And I tell people, I said, let's don't get rid of the thing you do well. What I find is most people get in trouble because they overuse their gift, which is what makes it hard. Because what's wrong with being passionate? Well, nothing's wrong with it. Or what's wrong with being, funny or whatever? Nothing's wrong with it. But when you overdo it and we
Right.
over rely on it, it's actually a way of trying to be safe versus letting someone come in. I mean, it's my go-to. And folks won't know what to do with that. So there's probably something I'm mad or upset or scared or overwhelmed with. And I like what you said earlier is that, how I feel is not who I am. I mean, I can be angry or I can be sad. My nose doesn't grow or my ears don't get bigger. I mean, I don't change who I am. So just because I'm feeling something doesn't mean I change who I am as a person. I mean, feelings come and go. And that's why men like them so much. When the woman is when she flows with all of them, it's really similar with a small child. When you let a small child, they're free to be who they are. You set limits with them. I mean, when my kids were younger and they would really be upset about something, I would tell them at times, slow down. I want to hear you. No, 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 no. Hold on. I want to hear you. And they didn't like that, but I was practicing containment with it. And then by the time they'd slow down, it would be something like, Robert ate my cookie and da da da. Okay. So it's not the end of the world, but to them it was. But unless I slowed them down, I can't hear them. And we want to do the same, like what you're talking about, that same thing of just, is this really worth it? But it doesn't do well to someone to say, I shouldn't feel this, or I shouldn't feel that. I shouldn't feel hungry. I mean, that's absurd. And folks spend a lot of time, women especially, I find, trying to like block part of who they are versus using to use it. I mean, learning to use it, like what you said with yourself, is that I'm passionate. I'm always going to be passionate. And I've learned, okay, there's certain times not to be, but your personality isn't going to change. And your husband certainly wouldn't want you to. I mean, that would be like stuffing the very reason he married you. Right. I mean, not that you could, but if he was on here, is he in the background? Yeah, he wouldn't want you to change. That'd be like, no, I signed up for this person and
Yeah.
all the things that go with her.
Yes, yes. That's the beauty of being with somebody for a long time. That you can just, I don't know, I feel so accepted, and like he expects me to come up with a crazy idea every other day.
Mhm.
And I love it. And he supports me. I say, I want to do this. And then he brings me books or whatever it is, like,
Yeah.
or the right shoes, or
Mhm. Mhm.
he's in. Now, I think this is worth to say, in a relationship, I don't really expect him to go snowshoeing if I decide to race a 5K in the mountains with snowshoes.
Mhm.
I would like it if he comes with me and he's there cheering me on and all that, but I don't expect him to do it with me. So I think that is something really important, that we have a lot of freedom regarding what we do or we don't do, but he doesn't expect me to go and play soccer with him every Sunday morning, but he likes it when I go there
Mhm.
and see him
Yeah,
play.
he gets to be a part of your world.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I'm sure vice versa, but as you said that, this brought something to mind. You had mentioned about how to use this. We're talking about emotions in a way of, it's okay to be vulnerable and weak. What I like women do, and what you're doing right now is a good example, is when you like something or a man does something you like, be sure and show that emotion. So this isn't like make it up. I find women, it's inside. I might just tell him, oh, that'll come across the wrong way. Not to him, it won't. So, as opposed to, I think we had said, like telling someone thank you. Thank you's fine, but thank you's kind of safe versus I love dinner. Or that was, I'm so flattered you would plan this. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Now, those may not be exact feeling words, but you can hear the emotion behind it. That's what lets him know he got it right. Once we hear the emotional connection. Remember, men don't pay attention to words as much as women do. I think it was, I don't know if you and I were joking about this. I tell a woman, I said, how you say stuff means so much to me. You can get away with saying green eggs and ham in a certain way, and men will go, really? If I said that to a woman, she'd be like, what? What's green eggs and ham? What? You mean Dr. Seuss? I mean, she couldn't, it didn't matter how I say it. But men, it's much more how you say it and the feelings behind it than he does. And so as opposed to just saying something, so when you like something, be sure and tell him, because that's his reward. That's really the reason why we take you to dinner. That's the reason why we dress up, why we show off, is to see you smile at us, to see you tilt your head and wiggle in your chair and all that stuff. That's just like we're 14 years old again.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's so sweet.
Mhm.
I think
And
it's
most
so
men won't
sweet.
say it the way I said it, just FYI, but I can tell you they're thinking that.
Right. So it's in the tonality It's in the way we say it. It's
You
not
know,
as
it's the tone you know, it's is the tonality, but, like, if you really like something, it's gonna be hard to say it wrong. I mean, if he just took you to a restaurant, you were surprised and you're having a great time, while you're feeling that, just tell him.
yes,
Just how do I say it? It doesn't matter. You can get away with saying it, but just, "This is so much fun." You can say that, and he'll
yes.
say, "Oh, okay. Really?" And just it's like Superman comes over him. Inside, he's like, "Yeah, I did that." I mean, it really feels like it. No matter how successful he is, he's gonna go back to 14, like, yes, just that work, because that's the whole goal is to impress you. That's the whole goal is to make you happy. Because when you're happy, it does something to us that's hard to describe.
I absolutely love what you just said. I think it's incredible and so, so important. Sometimes, as women, like successful, educated, right now, we are having women under 20s are more educated than men under 20s. They are making more money than men under 20s. They are buying more property. We are doing amazing. And sometimes all that comes with the pressure of having to be smart all the time and having the right word and all that. And like you said, that's what I tell my clients. It doesn't matter what you said. Just say that I love it. I really like it. Oh, it feels good. Just say it feels good.
Yeah, that's
You don't have to sound like I don't know, like Tolstoy or
yeah,
Victor
he's
Hugo.
not gonna pay attention to words like you do.
Right.
You just have to get close because he'll feel it. I mean, this is why, like, I've got a daughter. Daddy's little girl has him around his fingers, within reason, because she's just authentic. She doesn't say it perfectly. She's just happy. She's just, thank you, daddy. She's just, it just, men can read between the lines pretty well. We know when you like when we did something, we know when you don't. And we're men are kind of binary in that regards. We're like, did this work with her? Did it not work with her? And that's our starting place. We don't do the nuances like you do, not at all. And so once we know we're in the right direction, then we can try more things to please you. But if I messed up, if I get punished, what were you thinking? Ugh, or that kind of what that teaches me is don't take a risk with her. Just okay, just don't take risks because if I get it wrong, I'm going to get that reaction. So
Right.
if you reward him with the stuff you like, that actually makes up for a lot of times maybe you don't say it great because in his mind, oh, she's going to notice everything, not just when I screw up. Okay, I can do that. But if I just get an emotional reaction when I mess up and I don't get much when I do, what's the point of trying?
Right. Appreciate the baseline of the relationship with the man. Appreciate the man. They are binary, like you said. They are binary. It's win or lose.
Yes,
Win or lose. I'm winning with this woman or I'm losing with this woman. And who is the woman that he's gonna pick? The one that he feels like a winner. If
yes.
he's healthy.
Well, I mean, if he's healthy, but I would argue that most men are healthy enough for this. There's going to be the exceptions of those that don't, but most men respond really well to this. I mean, I've heard all kinds. I mean, even guys that aren't necessarily as emotionally in tune, they'll still pick up on this. So, therefore, if a man doesn't pay attention to that, that scares me about him. Those are a small number, but if this works poorly with him, that's more of a sign of some trauma or something deep with him, more so than the woman did it wrong.
Very, very good. Thank you for sharing that. Oh my goodness, so many truths, so many gems of wisdom. Let me see, there is a big message here. I didn't read it. So I always ask myself how important, it's regarding the talking about yeah, the relationship and love of your man is usually the more important. And I am passionate. Oh, yeah, Italian. Okay, Linda, same boat here. Women who is a very successful Wall Street banker, but I tell my boyfriend I need his strength and leadership, and he steps up every time. I'm 69, very good, and finally have alarm. Very good. I love it, Linda. There is no time, there is no age for this.
Mhm.
I always said, even if we get 3 years, 5 years of, of a great relationship. It's okay. It's okay.
Mhm.
There is no, this is not a competition. I love it. Thank you so much, Bob. This has been so, so, so great. You're amazing. I love your personality. You're very calm, and I feel like I'm like,
No, it's fun. I appreciate you having me. I enjoy it every time we talk, especially the energy you bring. See, it's not a distraction at all. It's a great, it's easy to feed off of. If I have to carry something and I have to be the energy, that would be much more draining for me and most men. So we don't like it when we don't mind it. If anything, we feed off of it. What we don't like is if a woman will be like, why aren't you talking more? Why aren't you talking a lot? Why? Well,
mm,
we both can't. Now, they don't say that, but I tell you what they're thinking. I mean, both of us can't do this, or let's do something real quick, real fast. So a lot of times with men is that when we watch women talk, it looks like this. They're talking over each other, and we're like, that's interrupting. Remember, no, we're just talking. So when a guy's quiet, sometimes that means we may need to give him space to talk. He's not going to jump in like your girlfriends will, just FYI. So that's why you see, like with you and I, it works so well. It's because I don't feel the need to jump in, and you've got all the energy. And that's how it will work a lot of times in relationships. Is it's not an indication he's not interested in much as he's trying to figure out how it works for you to what's the dance. And that's more of a respect thing he has for you than just not interested.
right, right. And what I'm thinking is that that could come across in the wrong way on first dates because,
Yes.
as you
Yep.
know, a lot of women come to us after the first date and, oh, he didn't talk. He was so boring. And
Right.
so, what do you have to say about that? Will you say go again? I tell them to, unless it's a big no, a full body no, to go on a second date because what would
No,
you say?
I'm with you. In general, I try to give him 3 dates, like he's unless there's something obvious, unless there's something. I see that, Linda. I'm glad you made it. Is because you don't because everyone has a bad first date. We all have. Sometimes we say the wrong stuff. I've had clients probably like you that come in and say, "Oh, I can't believe I did this." Well, you and I know the client, and we're like, you're not like that. Well, but I said, look, if he's not going to talk to you again because you made that one slip, I said, that worries me about him. I said, don't worry about perfect. I said, and also sometimes it just takes a while to get to know men. So if there's two men, if we're talking and one person's real talkative, that's a competitive thing if both of us have to talk. And usually that gets to be aggressive. And so men, unless it's a big deal, we'll just let someone else talk because it's not worth a fight. It's not worth doing this. Not that I'm not interested. It's just if he's interested, he'll pause for me to talk. That's the way we think. And so one of the things I tell women is when you're talking, remember, be sure and give some space to show some curiosity about him. Remember, the talker's not in charge, the listener is. So if I'm talking a lot, I'm not in charge. I don't mean I'm out of control, but just I'm sharing and sharing. Curiosity is what brings people back for more. Even if you do most of the talking, is that you have some interest, you have some curiosity. We want to know something about the other person. So at the end of the day, you know something about them that you didn't. Even if you talk more, it's fine. We just don't want to dominate it because that actually isn't connecting. That's actually a way of keeping people at a distance.
Wow, so many golden phrases in everything you said. I'm gonna go back to this video and take these pieces. That is incredible. So yes, how is it that talking a lot, taking control over the conversation is not a way to create intimacy, but rather disconnecting? How is it
So
like that?
So especially early on, it's one thing, like you said, if we're a couple, we've known each other for a while, and this we know our tendencies. But see, if I'm talking a lot, I'm not saying all the time. If I'm talking a lot, I'm nervous, and I don't want you to say anything that might catch me off guard. I don't want you to do anything, so I'm just going to keep talking right now, even though I'm not really saying anything more. The fact that I'm talking means you can't talk and you can't ask me an uncomfortable question. I'm just going to keep talking now, even though it's in circles. But the reason I do it, I'm not saying it's not in circles, but I keep doing this over here. It's a way of keeping you a distance. If I'm talking, I keep the microphone away from you, or I keep it, and therefore I don't have to express any vulnerability. You might ask me a question. I could keep doing that, but I think you get the point.
Yes, yes. Sorry, I got distracted because I noticed I didn't have Instagram live. So that's okay. So, but thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that. Yes, yes, and sometimes just blabbling is a way to just,
Mhm.
we don't. It's just not revealing much of ourselves. It's kind of like
No.
the persona, like in the old Roman theater, they had the persona,
Mhm.
the mask. It's like
Mhm.
wearing a mask. And that happens a lot on the first few dates, that people are dating, they're getting to know each other on the surface. And it takes a while to break through that.
Mhm. And we want to give it a while, in fairness. That's why I like what you had said about having someone, let's give it another date. Because it's
Yes.
a good rule of thumb, too, is that, sometimes we don't make a great impression, and the person you see is their best foot forward. It's not the whole person. I mean, it's just a sliver, and what our brain does is kind of fills in the gap. So you're smiling now, so you're nice. Well, you may be really mean. I mean, you're not, but just you may be mean, just have a great smile. But my brain's, oh no, she's nice. Yeah, I mean, and wow, she's real. You start making up stuff, but it takes a few days to really see the rest of the person, not the one that I think I saw on the first date. That's why like really intense connections are fun, but they're not really good predictors of if this person's a good fit for you. I mean, every now and then, but not usually. It's just really intense.
Right. And it's so confusing for people. It's, oh my
Mhm.
God. They trip a lot on that. It's yeah, it's tough. But that's why, having somebody to help them, it's so important. So they don't
Well,
get.
isn't that what we do a lot in coaching? Is remind them, I know what you want because you told me. My goal is to help you have that relationship you want. Or if you're
Yeah.
in one that's stuck, help you get unstuck. So I'm not going to look at this immediate thing like you are. I'm not saying it, you're not, what you're feeling is not true. I'm sure it does feel this way. But how's he going to treat you when you gain 5 pounds one day? Or how's he going to treat you when you're sick? Or how's he going to, you're not going to tell that about that emotion. That's going to go away. From that point, we want to see what is it? What does he treat you like when he doesn't feel like it? I mean, when he's
Right.
inspired, he's wonderful, but what's he going to do when he's angry or when he's bored? I mean, those things just take a little time to find out. And that's what folks hire us for, is to help me find that guy I can trust on my good days and bad, not just the one that's just lots of fun when things are going well.
I know everybody can be a great partner when things are going well, but life, unfortunately,
Mm, yes.
has a lot of up and downs. And
Mhm,
that's actually one of the things I liked about my husband when I met him a lot. Because when I met him, I was at the only time in my life, I'm very strong, and I'm not somebody that will, knock on wood, that will, you know, be down or stay down. I'm more of an anxious person, if anything.
mhm,
So, but when I met him, I had, when you go to therapy and they make you check the boxes of
mhm,
what dramatic things in your
mhm.
life you have been through. Well, I checked like 5 of them in 2 years. So I was really, it
Like a
was,
stress test.
yes, the stress,
Mhm,
divorce, death, life-threatening illness,
mhm,
moving, losing job, everything happened to me in a very short period of time. So I was fragile, and it was tough for me to be my best self. I just couldn't for a period of time. I even gained some weight. Of course, I wasn't huge, but
mhm,
for me, I was
yeah,
bigger,
mhm,
and I didn't look like I usually looked. And he met me like that, and he fell in love with me like that. So I was so used to guys only, my experience of guys only paying attention to me when I was, looking great and dressed up great and all, and being my happy self. That to me, that was a revelation that somebody could love me when I was at my worst.
mhm,
And that was huge for
mhm,
me. Like, it changed my life, and I loved him so much for that, and still do today. Even though, after a few months I was back to my
mhm,
self again, but that didn't even change who he was. He was still the same.
mhm.
And I think that is very important for
See, I
people.
like what you said is someone can be that, but not use it as an excuse to stay that way.
Mm,
I'll say wait, but there's other things of just, well, this is just where I'm at right now. I'm like, okay, I don't really care what you do with X, whatever it is, wait, this, whatever, but is this what you want to do
right,
versus just, I don't want to deal with stuff. Okay, well, I don't want to deal with stuff. It's going to spill over into your relationship. So let's don't bring that to a man. But absolutely, you're going to have times where stuff happens, and same way he will too. And do you have the courage to do that and experience that and show some of that? And at the same time, you work on it because, like most every storm, at some point runs out. It just doesn't feel like when you're in it. And will he love me for who I am as a whole? Not to make excuses and hide behind it. So that's a nice balance. I think you just described is I can be really down and I'm just not going to stay there. I mean, it may take me a while to get out of it or get help or talk with someone, but that's normal for folks to have
right,
times like that. But we don't talk about that much, but it is normal. And part of finding the love of your life is someone that wants to go through that with me, not just when I'm the thinnest, bestest, most
right.
upbeatest, that kind of stuff. I mean, but it's a real balance of both. Because what you just described, how could that not feel either sad or overwhelming? See, that's normal. If someone talks like that, it's like, oh, it's no big deal. Men can't relate to that because it sounds like a big deal. See, that doesn't make us think you're positive. It's strange. It's like, but the way you described it's easy to relate to. And
Okay,
for those watching, when men see that, that doesn't make me think less than Natalia. It makes me feel like I know her more. Makes her more of a real person.
right.
And so that would, and so I mean that was a good model you just did right there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes,
Mhm.
and I love what you said that I wasn't going to stay like that, and I
Yeah.
think he picked on that.
Mhm.
So it was just a moment,
Well,
and
he didn't marry you, so he probably, yeah.
yeah, we have been together for a very long time. Oh my goodness, it's my
Mhm.
longest relationship yet, besides my parents and my siblings, of course.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
amazing. So thank you so much, Bob. Would you like to say something else before we seemingly go apart?
Mhm. Well, thanks for having me so much. And if you're watching this, and Natalia's a good model for this, is you get to be who you are. So for her to she needs to be more quiet, more docile. That's not being authentic. That's pretend to be someone else that you're not. Is that being true to who you are and with your emotions? That is something that every man's going to crave, and the more it requires some vulnerability and your willingness to do so, a lot of times I found is the biggest catalyst to how men interact with you, how they feel around you, and how they want to get closer to you. So we'd like to both invite you on this journey.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody that showed up. Thank you, Linda. Thank you for asking, for sharing of yourself, and everybody that is watching the replay. If you have any questions, where can they find you, Bob? Do you have a website or a favorite social media handle?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Relationship Headquarters or our website at Relationship Headquarters. I look forward to seeing you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.